I want to start here. It's week 8, and I don't know who the favorite in the NFL is. And I was looking at the FanDuel odds, and I don't remember everything being over 4-1 for all the teams. It might have happened before, but I just don't personally have a recollection of that. KC is the favorite at plus 450, and San Francisco's there. But like, why don't we have a favorite yet? Is it injuries? Is it just the league is deeper? What is it?
I have a couple thoughts, and it's not like I'm giving you a thesis statement or dissertation, but if I can provide a couple thoughts, I think it'll lead to good conversation. The first is all of the really good teams have lost in primetime or big national games when everyone was watching. And I think that takes a little bit of the luster off these teams and makes the odd. Like if these were losses at 1 o'clock, it might be different, but we watched KC lose to Detroit. So we're like, well, they're not invincible. Then they played Denver on a Thursday night and the offense didn't click. So you're like, all right, KC, I don't feel the same way about KC, but everyone watched those 2 games. Philadelphia goes up and plays against the Jets in the most watched Fox game of the year, which was that late window. And everyone watched Jalen Hurts throw 3 interceptions with 28 million people watching in the second half. So, Philly, the Bills have now lost to the Jets without Aaron Rodgers.
Philly's 6-1, San Francisco's 5-1, KC's plus 450. Okay, keep going.
The Bills have lost to the Jets without Aaron Rodgers and then looked terrible against the Giants in a Sunday night primetime game. And then they went to London where everyone did wake up and watch that morning game and they couldn't get out of bed and beat the Jaguars. And the last one is the Niners. You're going into this thing and it's like, all right, we've been watching the Niners win by 20 every single game. They get on primetime against the Vikings and they lose. So I think that's maybe the betting side and the external media side. From a football standpoint. Oh boy, I don't know if the football's ever been more, just head scratching in a lot of ways. And I think it might be a quarterback thing. And I think about Buffalo, Cincinnati. I'm listening to teams here. KC, Dallas, I put in Miami and Philadelphia. And I'd say those teams are set at quarterback, right? Other than that, you either have bridge quarterbacks, you have declining quarterbacks, or you have a rookie quarterback. And Purdy with San Francisco is the one that's like an outlier. But I think that you're looking at this quarterback thing. It's like, okay, if you have a set quarterback that we know is good, but other than that, that's only like a handful of teams. That means there's a bunch of gobbledygook in the middle. And you could say, yeah, well, Cousins. I'm talking about the guys you talk about. Yeah. And if those teams all pick each other off, it's a quarterback thing. And there's so much turnover year to year in offensive systems and the way we want to do things that I honestly think the quality of play at the quarterback position, as much as we did a Netflix series this summer, and we talk about these young, talented guys up and coming. I remember growing up and you can pick out 12 to 14 quarterbacks that were like the same guys for 8 years on a team. And like, those were just the guys.
Did you just do when I was growing up?
Yeah. And my growing up might be a little
You're officially
different.
like, you how old's your kid now?
I have a 7-year-old son.
I like this. You're turning into like you're broaching toward middle-aged media member
I wake him up and I'm like,
we got to send you a card.
Let me tell you about Jim Everett and Chris Miller in the NFC West. I think you really need to hear about these showdowns between Bobby Hebert and Joe Montana. But yeah, you had the
I like your theory though, because I was trying to do my power poll. First of all, I couldn't believe that I had Dallas at 7.
You have to.
I don't like Dallas, but so the favorites are Philly, KC, Baltimore, and San Francisco, but I don't know who the actual favorite is. I usually like to put somebody in that spot. And I went with Philadelphia because I think I trust their infrastructure the most with their offensive and defensive lines, and they have a couple playmakers, and they have the tush push. Mm-hmm. And like Devonta Smith, who's been in a coma for 5 weeks, if you had him on your fantasy team, you're like just completely panicking. But I still think he's a good football player. I'm sure they're going to get a go one of the weeks. Yeah. They're getting Goddard going. They're always going to be able to run the ball. They're still adding, like they added Byard from Tennessee. They just stole him for nothing. So I think I trust them from a talent standpoint, and from I think it could go sideways in the least possible ways. KC, Baltimore, San Francisco. I'm not going to trust Baltimore yet. I want to see Lamar play 3 straight healthy months.
I should have put Baltimore in the quarterback conversation, by the way, if I was a double back. I don't think I had him listed because I was just doing a free.
Yeah, that's fine.
But to your point, they went to London and they beat Tennessee, but they did it with 6 field goals. It's a lot of people watch that game. So as much as the 1 o'clock Fox game where they crushed Detroit, is everyone buzzing right now? All right, well, we saw a different version of them a week before. So that makes it hard to be like, they're the favorite. And you don't want to just be prisoner of the moment, which is what essentially we are in the media.
Well, especially because the season is 1/3 of a year long now. And I do wonder if the length of the season ties into this, because every game can't be a big game when the season is 18 weeks, including the bye. And you're going to let down. You're going to go up. You're going to go down. I have Detroit at number 5.
Still, okay. I thought last week was a real humbling experience.
And it was, and they were out of it immediately, and they got their asses kicked. But I'm okay with that. I don't think that's a team that's built to play from 14 points down.
Okay.
And I just think they got their asses kicked. I also think the running game situation with them was not ideal. It's a bad week. They were banged up. And it just they caught Baltimore in the wrong week with the wrong kind of team situation. I still have them 5th. I have Jacksonville 6th, which I can't believe, because I actually think they might lose to Pittsburgh this week.
Absolutely.
Dallas 7. I have Miami 8 and Baltimore 9. Miami's had so many injuries now. I'm starting to wonder if it's going to hit the point of no return. They got their asses whooped by Philly last week. Buffalo's lost too many people. And then I have the Michael Myers Steelers at 10. Our team.
That's our team, dude.
4-2. They're once again underdogs against Jacksonville this week. Most of the money's on Jacksonville.
At home.
I just watched my East Coast Bias guys today. All 3 of them were like, love Jacksonville. Oh my God. Oh, family play. And how many times do we have to watch it with them? Yeah, they're going to be 5-2 in 4 days.
Pittsburgh, they'll 56 minutes into the game, you're banging your head against the wall, and then you look up at the final score and they won by 3, and you're like, how'd they do that again? And it's not. At some point, it's not a coincidence.
Team. Yeah, no, it's not.
The other thing about like the league wide stuff, and I was talking about the quarterback position, but the new CBA put in a lot of rules, and I know this is like maybe Lombardi can go bigger on this, or if you have on someone who's coached, going back into the 90s, like. Offensive linemen and defensive linemen, they do not do like one-on-ones in practice anymore. So the offensive linemen come in, and by and large, they're not great anymore. And these guys come in from college, and a lot of these college offensive lines and linemen are taught, bullshit. And you've got to unwire their mind on how they played offensive line in college football, and then teach them how to play NFL. And you can't do it in practice because you can't do one-on-one. You can't do it in training camp. But then week 3, you need this guy to start at right tackle, and he hasn't ever played in an NFL game. I think that stuff matters. It's not sexy. It's not as easy as saying the refs suck, but it is something that the offensive line play is atrocious right now, and the defenses are dominating in every which way at the line of scrimmage.
The people that love college football always talk about how there's a certain way a lot of these college football offenses play, where it's just like shotgun snap, throw the ball quickly. They just kind of learn how to block one way, and that's it. And then they get to the NFL and they have no idea what they're doing. One other piece, I don't know how major this is, but it's definitely not nothing. They clearly changed the concussion policy this year.
Ooh,
if you get a concussion, you're out for the next week. You just are. Brock Purdy got a concussion Monday. We're not going to see him. They're like, he might be. You're out. And it does feel like it's clearing out 2 guys per week on, in games. So maybe it'll be one on each team, 2 on one team, whatever. But I've noticed that more than usual, that guys are just scratched,
Well, I think the league responded to people crying on air and tweeting nonstop when Tua went down and was still in the game. And I think if it's an overcorrection, it's because they're playing it safe. But I'll give you an example. The Jets, right before the game last week, it's like, all right, Sauce Gardner's still in the concussion protocol. Well, then he had a bye week, and now we're coming out of the bye week. And I don't know, I can't give you the measure of his concussion, but like it's Thursday we're recording this. Both he and DJ Reed, the starting corners, they're both, Sauce still is in the concussion protocol and still has not been cleared to play. And I think they're being very safe about that. But that's your best defensive player. That's huge.
Right. In the old days, hey, Sauce, get back out there.
Yeah.
How's your head feel? Okay. Yeah. You're good. The other thing with the league, and this usually happens when we get to the teens, but I had just my rankings were Cleveland 11, even though they have no quarterback. Seattle, Cincinnati. I think they could go either way. I would looking at Cincy's schedule, I'm pretty worried about them being able to turn it around because every week they're playing a banger. Seattle, same thing. They have some tough games coming up. They got San Francisco twice in 3 weeks. And then you have Houston and the Rams at 14-15 and Atlanta at 16. And then it drops, for me at least, Tampa, Jets, Minnesota, 17, 18, 19. Then you get to the Chargers at 20. I'm crossing them off.